Okay, so a very good evening to all of the Azure enthusiasts out here. We are going to talk about the Azure Data Analytics and in terms of the administration best practices. Now, if you look at the modern way, it's said that the data is the new currency in the world. So there have been a lot of cloud improvements towards bringing these data analytics, business intelligence, and all other data related um, processes into cloud and work seamlessly with the other roles like web apps and mobile and everything. So today we will be speaking about Azure Data Analytics, administration best practices. My name is Marin De Silva and I'm a Microsoft MVP for Microsoft Azure. So the topic looks a bit interesting because we are not going to speak or go in depth on how to do the data analytics part in Azure. So the purpose of this presentation is to see what are the components and how you can be involved in the administration of Azure resources. So So the purpose of this presentation is to see how you will be getting involved in administration of Azure resources when there is a data analytics project that's going on, and how you can make the best use of Azure resources. Now the data analytics on cloud is booming, it's improving, so that creates a lot of opportunities for a lot of the Azure administrators, but you need to know have the data analytics knowledge in managing the Azure resources. That's not always true. There is a bit of a catch up to do, but in most of the cases the knowledge that you already have can be used to administer those data analytics components and everything. So a little bit of overview to today's presentation. So the presentation will have three sections. So what are the data analytics components? I will do a little bit of overview of many options available. We will look at a very simple basic analysis on what are the components available, and then let's look at the common Azure resource management practices, because from what I believe it's about 90% of the resource management part in the even in the data analytics project is done by the common principles, because Microsoft Azure is built on such common set of principles that you can use to administer the controls, and then the knowledge that you need to gain when moving from one service to another is very minimal. So that way, if you are coming from a other area of administration such as web apps, database, so something like that, you can still use most of your knowledge and get on board with the data analytics management very easily. And the third part is the data analytic components. We will do a little bit of a demonstration on how to do the data analytics components administration. There I will try to show a little bit of a component overview and the options that are available in there, right? So let's look at, when we look at the data, what one of the most component one of the most sections in the data analysis is the data ingestion. Now if you look at the set of volume of data that are generating every day, if you look at the weather data, there might be gigabytes of data that are coming every day, and if you look at some other data, there might be petabytes of data that are coming every day. So it's really important that we store those data somewhere, or sort of we capture those data somewhere. If we need, we can on real time. If we don't need, or if we see a future potential, we can keep them stored, because in cloud the storage cost very less compared to the processing. Now if you are thinking of planning some sort of a forecasting method that needs a machine learning model training using the past data, so you won't be making your machine learning model at the beginning, so you need a set of captured data. So in order to do that, you need the data ingested to some sort of resource. So with Azure, what we have seen is there are quite a few components, and if you look at the components out here on the leftmost column, you can see the logic apps. Now, logic apps provide a greater way of greater flexibility to use, and it's one of the first few among those three. And it really provides a easy visually pleasing view to the end user. So if you are, even if you are not an administrator, or if you are just a power user, then you can really understand what's in there, and just drag and drop components and get your data ingested to somewhere. If not, you can, if it is, even if you are not really interested in data, you can see in the screenshot, you can send an email using based on some sort of a triggered event. So the most important thing is ID, and then you can just drag and drop components, and based on the conditions that you specify, the further actions will be decided. And in the middle section, we can see the Azure Event Hub. So what Event Hub does is, it's more of a used for the real-time processing information. So if you are thinking we need some sort of a real-time information manipulation, for example, if you look at Twitter data, and if you need some sort of action based on that Twitter data, so something like that can be easily implemented with the Event Hub. So you might be getting large volumes of data, but the important thing is you can provide them to real-time applications. So that's a very good and very important feature out there. And then you can update real-time dashboards, as well as I earlier said, if your needs, if you are thinking that your needs will come not just right now, but in future, you can really use those data later by keeping them stored in one of the locations that you prefer, maybe in cloud or somewhere else, depending on the connectors available, right? And the third most important part that I'm actually more focused today is the Azure Data Factory, right? So Azure Data Factory is a managed cloud service that is built for complex ETL based processes, as well as for hybrid workloads for the ETL. So ETL means extract load transformation, and you can ingest the data, or you can do so many things with that. As you can see in the screenshot, we have the copy data functionality. We can do a manage data flow, and Azure Data Explorer commands can be run, or even you can action on a certain Azure function very easily. So then it also connects to Databricks depending on the need, and the data lake. So we will be talking a lot about data lake. So you can see the Azure Data Factory connecting to data lake later in this presentation, right? So if you look at we look at a very simple process of the data analytics being exposed to the outside world. Now I showed you the engine version 1 and 2 has significant improvement changes. For example, if you go to the Azure portal, for the data lake storage 1, you will find a service called Data Lake Storage Gen 1. But if you go and search for the Data Lake Storage Gen 2, you won't find something like that in Azure portal. So you have to go with a storage service. Once you create a storage service, when you are creating a storage service, there is option for enabling the Azure Data Lake storage. So that's how it's done. And the biggest advantage, access those files inside those data lake storage as files as well as objects. Now you get a different API for accessing them as objects, and a different API for accessing them as physical files. And in here we have specified Databricks as the train and preparation tool. So what you can do there is, in Databricks you can do quite a lot of analysis. You can connect it with the machine learning. You can process them and make them presentable, so the outside world is ready to see them. And on the fourth column, we have serve and publish. As you can see up on the top, Microsoft Power Platform has Power BI. So data can be exposed via Power BI reports, or if you need, given now, if you look at Power BI, it's part of the Microsoft Power Platform. So it's not only connected to the Power BI, you can connect with Flow as well as the other service, which is Microsoft, the Forms application as well. And also you can make the data available anywhere. So one of the key things here is that when we process and train and prepare the data, if you need, you can store it in a another middleware storage, such like a Cosmos DB or even a relational database model like server and so on. So this is how a normal analytic operation will function at the very basic level. So if we recap this, we will have Azure Data Factory, Event Hub, and Logic Data for ingestion, and then Data Lake storage, Blob warehouse for storage, and we got Databricks for the train and preparation, and finally Power BI or any other visually pleasing tools for the publishing. Right. So now let's look at the common Azure resource management practices that we can take into here. Now, as I earlier mentioned, it's about 90% of what you see in a normal Azure administration practice. You can bring all of those knowledge into the data uh, analytics practices as well, because Azure provides most of the common interface, and that will help you get through quite a lot of things. Now, in terms of organizing, we can have resource groups. So the resource groups are very helpful when you are doing the managing. And the virtual networks, of course, it's a part of security as well. And you can have load balancers on top of everything to route the traffic and ensure that your resources don't go crash by having overloaded. In terms of security, most of the resources allow firewall integration, so you can restrict them to IPs, or you can blacklist or whitelist some IPs if depending on the necessary. And then one of the important thing is when you are using virtual networks, you have the ability to enable service endpoints. For example, if you need only HTTP endpoints to be exposed outside to the virtual network, you can enable it with just a few clicks. And then it's quite a lot integrated with Azure AD. So all the resources are integrated with Azure AD. You can make the applications to use Azure AD for authenticating using multiple ways. So you can use the access keys if needed. Otherwise, you can use managed principals, things like that for the security purposes. And there are a lot of support for the unit testing, integration testing, as well as load testing. For example, some even if you look at a web page or something like that, you can use Azure application insights to get a lot of good insights and read the telemetry data, show the telemetry data out there. And in terms of managing, yes, you can set alerts on the host management. So it's there for the web apps or databases, the normal transaction databases. So same applies for the Azure data storage, data lakes, data factories, and even Databricks. And you can, so in terms of scaling, there are a set of limitations depending on the limit, depending on the type of the resource. So those principles are likely apply here as well. So if you look at a normal Kubernetes workload, it has facility for auto loading, but there are some limitations on resources. So those options are also mostly the same. And in terms of migrating from one environment to other, you can use DevOps pipelines and the ARM templates inside them. So the migration process from one environment to the other, or you going from dev to prod, is a very seamless and easy approach there. All right, so we spoke a little bit about this. Now we'll see a few of the resources getting created and so on. Now here's my Azure portal, and I will start creating a data factory straight away. This is very easy. So when you go to Azure portal, you can use the Azure CLI or the PowerShell as well for creation, but I'm using the Azure portal itself. So if you just search for data factory, yes, so you get the data factory option here. So it shows you the plans, which is just one, and the overview of whatever it's there in the first. And then when you go to create, you can give a name. This should be unique. One. Right, so it's available. Now I'm selecting version 2, and then I can select the subscription and define a resource group. Now here I am giving DevOps Meetup as the resource group and say OK. So the location I am leaving as it is in central US, but as you know, depending on your demand and the needs, you can select whatever the location you need. And here it has an option for enabling the JIT. Now what this happens here is you can actually do testing on your data factories by using a JIT similar JIT based editor. So you can create branches and you can do the changes on those branches, but they won't be going live just because you make a change and test it out there. But as soon as you submit that code or merge that code or you through a PR or something to the master branch, that code gets updated and will be moved to the relevant environments, maybe production or dev depending on the need. So this can be enabled later, so I'm just leaving it disabled for the moment and just hit the create button here. Now it will take a little bit of time, and within like a minute or so on it shall come up. It's very faster creating a data factory here. Yeah, so as you saw, it didn't take even a minute. So the moment it's created, I can go to the resource. So once you come in here, you can see the normal, whatever you see in a normal Azure resource, the resource group, all this information are there. And then there's an option for author and monitor, right? Once you click it, the Azure Data Factory Designer actually loads up here. So here's where you can actually set up the data factory itself. Now if you look at it, you have options like create pipeline, create data flow, or create pipeline from template, or just copy data, or configure SSIS integration, or set up the code repository, because I haven't set up. And if you need to know any further details on the how to administer or just play around with the data factory, there are enough tutorials out here with the examples, so it's very self-explanatory for someone who is starting up even on data factory. Now I will select the create pipeline option here just for the demo purpose, right? Now this gets me to the designer itself. Now this is a very interactive designer, so I get all the activities that I need out here straight away. So you can see move and transform has copy data, data flow, and Azure Data Explorer, it has an option here, and then Azure Functions, batch services, and even Databricks, right? And also the Data Lake Analytics. So, and general some other variables and stuff like that are here. So the common components. And HD insights if you are using any Apache Spark operations here, and some other normal controls and the machine learning components, all are available here, very easy to drag and drop. Now I will show just I won't go any deep on that, but just for the demonstration purpose I will drag and drop a copy data action. So when the control is dragged and dropped, I see a few options down here in the tabs. So it asks me to give a name. Yes, just leave it as it is. And we have the timeout, retry options out here. And if you go to source, I can select a data set here. Now I don't have any data sets predefined here. So if I just go and hit new, it provides me a lot of options out here. Now you can see Amazon Marketplace Web Service, Amazon S3, and Azure Blob Storage, Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 1, and SQL database, and even some other Google BigQuery or even HTTP source can be used here. So I will just select something like the Azure Blob Storage and say continue, and in the format of it. So if I say CSV, I will have to give a link serviced here. See? So here I can select the Azure subscription, whatever subscription I need, and the storage account name, and you can just add it over here very easily. Now I won't do it for here, but in the real world, when you are doing something, you will have to do it. And then comes the sync dataset. It's same as whatever you define as source. You can set a dataset and define where the data needs to be synced into. Right? And then if you need any mapping schemas or other settings that you might want to specify, there are all the options are available here. And if you need any custom user properties to be used, you can just select name and give key value pairs here. For example, if you need a password for something like test password here, I can give something or auto generate it here. Right, so just say something like that. You can simply say it here. Right. So that's just copying data, and also you can have custom code here. Now if you look at this, Azure Data Explorer is a very common service. If you want to run any commands that are related to Azure Data Explorer, you can just go here and go to the command activity definition window here. So this is pretty much a JSON file. You can specify here just to show you something. Now if you look at it, this doesn't show anything depends on it. So what I'm going to do is I will go out of the editor window here, just close this, and I will select this to execute after this. Right. So if I go back to the code view, you can see it depends on activity copy date 1, and dependency condition is succeed. So it's very easy to do it, and if you right click it here, you can even select the what will need to happen on failure or completion or skipped or some depending on the options you need. And some other options like cloning, all these are available here as well. And another important thing is once you create a data factory here, now imagine if you are deploying it to two clients. One client might have a requirement and something similar. Most of the components can be similar for the second client as well. So in such cases, what you can do is you can save this as a template, right? So when I save this as a template, I get a copy of it, storage into the my Git location. As you can see, templates pipeline 1. So I need to enable Git integration here. So if you want to say, I will say client 2 here, right? So it will be stored to templates client 2. So the second client, the information related or the things that I need to do for the second client, I can actually template this here and work on that Git location while the first client is working on here as needed. And you can save as well as export, and you have the option for validating here. Now this says a set of commands are outputs are required, so once you edit it will be validated. And also you can debug. It's very user friendly, so you can say debug, and if you really do set it up correctly, you will see the debug mapping succeeds as well. And then another important thing is you can add the trigger for it. You can trigger it now in order to be it on demand, or else you can give another trigger here. Now if you select that one, now I selected new edit. So if I go to triggers, if you have any triggers listed here, they will appear here. So if I choose a trigger and go to new, right, I can say it to be scheduled or any sort of window or an event. Now this is very interesting because you can make it run based on the time frame as well as to be based on sort of a event that happens in another resource. Now if you look at it, I can select the account selection to Azure subscription. I will select an Azure subscription if needed, or by default everything will come, and I can say this is the storage account, right? And then it asks me to specify a container name, and then you can specify a blob path begins with and ends with, right? So if you need it to be blob created or blob deleted, all those can be specified here. Now the goal here is, if you want to want some data factory to work out when a CSV is uploaded to a certain container, that means a blob will be created there, so you can execute that data factory immediately once this is done. So that's very easy. You can set it up, and once it is set it up correctly, it will start appearing here, as I earlier mentioned. And the most important thing is you can export this as an ARM template. So Azure Resource Management template, you can export this as an ARM template, and it shall download it here. Now if I just open it up, it will come here, and if I just open it in some sort of a text editor, if let it be Visual Studio. Yeah, so I'm opening it on Visual Studio Mac. So you can see all the variables. If you need, you can specify more variables here, and the resource information, as you can see, the data factory pipeline is here, and if you need, you can add any other, and the other components as well. Now the whole operation is templated here. If you look at it, first component is a copy data one, which is available here, and then the second data is the data explorer command one, and it depends on copy data one. The thing that I showed there earlier is completely exported into Azure Resource Management template, just like this. Now depending on your need, you can make them variables, and you can specify the variables here. So when you are moving from dev to production, it's a matter of changing it, or even in Azure Data Pipelines you have the ability to change them, specify how they need to be changed, so they will be connected and executed without an issue, right? So in terms of data factory, that's what I was meaning to show you. Now let's go back to the resource group that I created. So I'm back at this home. Let me go to all resources and select my resource group that I just created. Please. So DevOps demo. Okay, let me just filter this out. And if I see the resource groups, and okay, it's DevOps Meetup. Let me specify it here. Right, so it's specified here, and the components that I have in this resource group is available here. And very new thing that Azure has introduced is you can save these views right now as much as you need. Right, so the next component is the data lake generation tool. Now if I go to add resource, and if I specify data lake here, so when I search as data lake, oops. Yeah, so as I earlier said, it's showing only the data lake storage in one, and data lakes analytics is a analytics tool. So how do we create a data lake generation 2 service is very important. So you just search for Azure storage service. Storage account. Missing a space here. Where is it? Why am I doing something wrong? Okay, let me go here and just see. Okay, so let me go to one of the available ones here. Okay, just search here. Yeah, storage accounts here. So if I just start adding here, right, here we go. So I have selected the subscription and I am selecting the same resource group. So as I said, this is basic stuff which you can do. Where's my resource group? The right subscription, yes. So DevOps Meetup, right? So I'm giving a storage account name. I will say DevOps Meetup Demo, right? And selecting the performance as standard. You can select premium if needed based on the requirement. And the account kind is storage v2, right? And the replication you can leave it as it is, and the access tier auto call, and then review and create. Oh, hold on, I made a mistake there. Right. So let's create one more only. Storage accounts, add one. So I'm giving DevOps Meetup as the resource group and demo 2, let's say demo 2 Meetup. Right, that works. And I go to networking. So it says public endpoint, all networks are available, and you can specify the network as well. And if I go to advanced option, you can see an option for Azure Data Lakes Storage Gen 2. Here you can specify hierarchical namespaces, and if you enable it, you can see the other blobs of delete and everything will get disabled. So this is how you create a data lake storage Gen 2 account here. Now if you go next, it will ask for tags, which I am going to leave as it is. I don't need any. And then I will go here and review and create. Yeah, so the validation is passed, and now this shall get created. So this doesn't take much of time, as same as the previous. It just get created within a minute or so on. Alright, so let's go here. Okay, so the deployment is completed. That means the resource is available. Now if I go here, what I am seeing is a storage account, but this is a little bit of a special storage account because this is allowing the storage to be happen here. Now if I go here in the storage account, I can see a few options. If you go to overview, you will see the normal general stuff you see in any other Azure resource. But if you go to access control, you can see the role assignments and everything. So that's integrated with AD and everything. So if you come here to the data transfer, so you can see a set of solutions that Microsoft is suggesting based on your requirement. So if I just select the estimate data size of transfer, if I see it's 50 GB, and the approximated available network bandwidth, if I say 45 Mbps, and the transfer frequency, if I say once, it will say ask me to use AZ copy or Storage Explorer, REST API SDK, or Azure File Sync. Now if I change it to repeatedly, then the repeated information will come here. So based on your selection that you do, you can see if I select the different parameters, I will get the suggestions to use whatever the best recommended by Microsoft. This is very useful, because if you are going to do a data transfer from one subscription to another or so on, you can simply come here and select them and make the decision on what are the options you need to have in order to do the data transfer. And if I go to the events just up here, you can enable event subscription here. So if I just create event subscription, I will give it a name, event sub 1, so no spaces, 1, and I can select the event grid schema and the storage account, and event types. I can see the blob created, directory created, and blob renamed or directory renamed, any of the information. And the endpoint type, I come here, I can select Azure function, a webhook, storage queue, event hubs, hybrid connections, service bus options as well. So if I select Azure functions, it will ask me to select an endpoint. So this will load all the Azure functions that are available within my Azure subscriptions, and you can select the resource group and select a function app. So if I go to somewhere that I have something, it's not here. If I go somewhere, just something like that, oh, it's not there. So whenever I have sort of a resource group with the functions app inside here, as you can see, it's showing the function app, and I can select the slots and then select the function just right there, right? So once you confirm the selection, you can edit as well, and then you can specify the filters, and there are some additional features that, like retry policies. If the function is returning a bad request, you can ask it to retry depending on the logic that you specify. And after that, I think the next thing is the access keys. Now the access keys allow you to connect to the resource very easily by giving these access keys, but it is not what's the most recommended way. So you can either you will have to basically use the Azure AD and use service principals and so on, or if not, there is another option for shared access signatures. So if you come to shared access signatures, the difference between access key and shared access signatures is, imagine if you're having multiple clients who want to consume the data inside the storage account, you can specify what are the options that need to be available for them depending on the client's requirement. If you look at access keys, it's just one thing, just two keys. Once you select them, you will have access to all things. But here you can allow blob or file queue, or depending on your need. If I allow blob and file and get rid of the others, and then if I can select only containers and allowed permissions read and list, right? So, and I can specify date time for them to have only this signature usable within this duration. So it's very important in case if you feel like you need to give a month of subscription for user, you can create this access signature and share that information with the user. So you can actually also specify the IP addresses, which I just leave it as it is. And when I select this generate source and connection string, it actually gives you a set of connection string and the source token and the blob service URL and the file service source URL. So I have only selected blob and file here. If I select queue and tables, they also will appear bottom down here, right? And then you have also options for the configuration. The configuration is here, and if you want some sort of a security up here, firewalls and virtual networks. So if you need the storage account to be inside a virtual network, you can simply select a network and specify that one here. And if you need, allow a set of IPs or whitelist some IPs and make it accessible from them. So basically you cannot access this resource even on your machine right now if you need to add the current client IP address. So all this information, the firewall information, can be specified here. And also the information can be encrypted if you just come here. So you can use the default Microsoft managed keys, or you can give your own custom managed keys as well. So this way it's providing quite a lot of options here, and if you need, you can use this, you can integrate this straight away with the Azure keyword by just selecting the keyword up here. Now I don't have any keyword specified here, so it will not show anything up here. So let me go back. So that also can be specified in here. Now if we come to the a little bit bottom, you can see the data lake storage is here, right? And you can specify containers. If I specify a name here, container 1, right? Oops, container alpha. Yep. So it's the caps container alpha, and the public access level, it's by default private. You can select blob or container like this and just create it. Now the container is created, and if I go inside here, I can just upload files, or I can add directories, right? Let's say scene1, right? And create a directory here. So likewise you can create them very easily, and as you can see up here, you can give access controls and policy rules and everything for even for the particular container itself, right? And then the other thing is, if you look at lifecycle management, there are quite a lot of options available here. Now if you need, you can add a rule here. So basically if you need, you can just come here and add a rule here, say from hot to cool, and save it as enabled. And what I can do is, I have a few options for blobs. So move blobs to cool storage. Now the cool storage is less pricey, and it's less accessible, less access actually, and then the archive store even lesser. So if I can say, after 7 days of the last modification, move it to cool storage, and after 14 days of the last modification, move it to archive storage, right? And if wasn't modified for 365 days, delete this off. This is not a good practice, but I'm just showing it as need for the demonstration. And then up here I can set up a set of filters. For example, if I need, I can say container alpha. So that's the part this needs to be mapping. And as you can see in the example below, you can just give a virtual folder as well. And then if I just come here, I can review the whole thing, and the blobs are stored here. Move to cool storage 7 days after last modification, move to archive storage 14 days after last modification, and delete 365 days after blob last modification, right? And it's applying only for the container alpha. And if I just add it here, it just get added here. If I go to code view, you can see it as a code view as well, and when you download it, it comes in as a JSON that you can be exported, right? So that's basically what's about the data lake storage. And the third component is Databricks. I'm not going to create one here, but if we just come here, you can create a Databricks one as well. So if you just come here, one of the most significant differences that you see in the other resources and here is, you can see a managed resource group up here. Now if you go up here, the resource group manager and the components that are inside that, as you can see, the Databricks create a storage account, a network security group, and a virtual network here. So all this information can be managed by here. Just you can see the events can be specified here. You can go for event subscription here and specify that one here. And the cost analysis, so it's doubtful whether it will come in this soon, but usually when you have the resource in use, you will be able to see a cost analysis. And then the most important thing is, you can set cost alerts. So if your resource group, and if this resource group is exceeding a set of cost by a particular date of the month, you can say stop, or you can say email me a message or something like that, so you are aware of it before it gets shut down automatically. So likewise, these are the three most important components that you will see up in here in a simple demonstration that I showed. So basically, with as you saw, it's very easy to administer them. You can just use your own knowledge that you have in administering any other thing, and if you need, you can whatever you need is a very little minimal knowledge in order to administer these components. So as an administrator, you can get very easily on through it, right? So that's it from me. And if you have any questions, just post in the YouTube comments, then we will be able to answer it out here. Right? Thank you.